I was a young teen, I remember spending my summers in Villa Juarez, a small town in the state of San Luis Potosí, Mexico, where my maternal grandparents are from. I recall being woken up by my grandmother at 5 o'clock in the morning to go with her to the town's communal grinder to grind the corn we had helped her shell the night before. She made my cousins and I, the girls of course, go with her, only to come back and insist we then help her make tortillas out of that corn dough. She said we needed to learn and that we had already slept a lot anyway. I recall riding in the back of my grandfather's old pickup truck through the ranchos on our way to find a goat that would later become our dinner. I remember how he used to rock back and forth in his favorite rocking chair while my grandmother brought him his cafecito en pan dulce, coffee and sweet bread. As a daughter of immigrants, I grew up at the crossroads of two worlds. One filled with family, music, delicious food, and rich Mexican culture and traditions. And another one, a little less familiar, a world where my parents were just starting to walk through, and by default, I was too. As a young girl born in the US to immigrant parents, it didn't always feel like this world was for me, or that I belonged here. I grew up in the southwest of Chicago's Little Village neighborhood where it felt like home, but as soon as I stepped outside of it, I felt like a stranger in my own country. I felt small and invisible, unseen, voiceless. Growing up, there have been many times when I've had to hide pieces and parts of who I am as a way to exist in spaces that were not created for me. Many times I've had to tone myself down, try to look the part, or speak better English for the comfort of others. I remember being completely fluent in my mother's tongue, Spanish, but I was afraid to speak English, afraid I wouldn't speak it right. Now, I wonder why my bilingualism was not embraced, and why a 12-year-old child had to feel shame rather than be celebrated for learning not one, but two languages. Have you ever found yourself making assumptions about who someone is based on the way they look or the way they speak? Have you made assumptions about who immigrants are, about who their children are? We all make assumptions, but how can we change this? What can each one of us do so that no child of immigrants or not, ever has to feel othered or made to feel inferior? Today, I am grateful for having gone through all these challenges. Grateful for my parents' and grandparents' stories, and I now celebrate the resilience that comes from my immigrant roots. A narrative that is often misrepresented, outright attacked, or omitted altogether from our society's consciousness. It has made me stronger, more grounded, more nuanced, and I no longer hide who I am. But this was not always the case. I was not always this vocal. I did not always speak up. It has been a lifelong journey through self-discovery and identity formation. I credit the countless conversations I've had with good friends, family, mentors, the many cultural events I've gone to, my travels, the many books I've read that have enlightened me. I now know myself enough to speak the truths that need to be spoken, even if uncomfortable. Everyone's journey is different, but one thing I know for sure is that our stories need to be told. As daughters of immigrants, we bring a unique story to the world, one that comes directly from our lived experiences. From the times we had to help our parents translate documents, learn to advocate for them, care for our younger siblings, and contribute financially to the household. My passion comes from growing up with adversity, from feeling poverty firsthand at the age of 8, when I was old enough to understand what it was, from seeing my mother struggle to put food on our table, while navigating a new country that did not always welcome her. Today, I'm an advocate for human rights and immigrant justice, and the first in my family to earn a graduate degree. My passion comes from the resilience, strength, and pride that my community and family has helped shape in me. I've had the privilege to travel around the world, lead educational and awareness campaigns throughout the US and Latin America. But all of this does not define me. What defines me is my legacy as a granddaughter of bracero workers who were invited to come and work and build this country in the 1940s. By my Mexican immigrant parents who raised us to be proud of our heritage. By their teachings and tenacity. Because of our history, we are strong and resilient. We are committed and determined. We are bold and unapologetic. Our families have been through too much to be any other way. We have been able to move mountains in spite of our challenges. And we are redefining who we want to be on our own terms, pushing back against the mainstream and charting new paths for others along the way. You see, as a daughter of immigrants, we have been able to embrace and straddle two cultures, two sets of values, two languages, sometimes even 3 or 4, in spite of constant microaggressions like, "Where are you from?" or "What are you?" In spite of being othered, in hopes that we would assimilate into a more digestible versions of ourselves. Many of us, daughters and children of immigrants, are often made to choose between our parents' culture and our US culture, between speaking English or speaking Spanish. But we are all of it, a beautiful mix of many cultures and many people, of ancestors who come from many lands. This is the beauty of being a daughter of immigrants. Our identities are multidimensional. All of who we are should be embraced, not just the parts and pieces that mesh well with a dominant narrative of who we're supposed to be. Our multicultural background is what makes us rich. It's what defines us. In the words of Aurora Levins Morales, I am the child of the Americas. I invite you to get to know us, the children of immigrants, to ask about our journey, to see beyond the labels and stereotypes. I invite you to learn from us, to listen to us, and to embrace all of who we are. Thank you.